Reversing narcissistic abuse. Don't just heal narcissistic abuse trauma. Reverse the narcissistic devaluation programming. You have value simply because you exist. Today, we're going to talk about how the narcissist wants only one thing from you. Every type of narcissist wants this one thing from their victims. Doesn't matter what kind of narcissist they are, whether they're malignant, overt, covert, psychopath, borderline, comorbid, codependent, communal narcissist, all of them need this one thing, or it literally can kill them. What is it that this narcissist wants from you? Hi, welcome back to the channel. This is the Reversing Narcissistic Abuse YouTube channel. And the reason why this is such an important channel is because even though this channel is going to appeal to people who have been overtly abused by sadistic, narcissistic people in relationships or in family dynamics, the truth of the matter is that every single person that lives on planet Earth, unless they're living in some undiscovered, mountain tribal, they've never seen anything in the modern world, which is, virtually impossible. Unless that has happened, every single human being on this planet has been narcissistically devalued. They have been programmed to live in narcissistic devaluation. And what is narcissistic devaluation? The shortest answer is to be narcissistically devalued is to be convinced that you are not lovable simply because you exist. If you believe that your value to society, your value to other people, is based on something other than the fact that you are a conscious being who exists, you have been narcissistically devalued. If you feel negatively based on how much money you have, how much wealth you have, how much influence, how much popularity you have, how desirable you are to the other sex, whether or not you have clout within society or within your group of people, if any of these feelings affect you in such a way that it makes you feel unlovable or unvaluable or irrelevant, then you have been narcissistically devalued. And that pretty much describes every single person on planet Earth, because the first thing that you are programmed to do is to go out and give yourself away in exchange for an idea of worth, which we call money. As you know, money isn't a real thing, it's an idea. But that idea that we all share, that we all agree to accept as being real, which it's not a real thing. But the fact that we choose to agree that it's real and that this concept of money has so much power that it can kill you. It can make you incapable of functioning, incapable of meeting your needs, incapable of traveling or moving or interacting at all. This is narcissistic devaluation. So, what is the one thing that all narcissists need, even if that narcissist is the bank or the government, or if it is somebody that you have been in a relationship with that has devalued you, that has used you, that has sucked the life out of you or horrifically abused you and made you feel horrible. I mean, narcissistic abuse can absolutely destroy your life, 100% completely destroy every aspect of your life. Regardless of where you are on that spectrum, there's only one thing that the narcissist wants from you. And that one thing is what has been called supply. The narcissist is looking for his narcissistic supply. So let's talk about what is narcissistic supply. So the adult narcissist must have been deprived of emotional validation almost to the point of death. So we're going to get into this, but before I do, you need to understand that the supply that the narcissist needs is their food. It's not something arbitrary. So while we can talk about how evil the acts are of a narcissist, and their acts are evil, and even if they think they're doing something out of a desire to be evil, the truth is everything that they do comes from an intense hunger. They feel, if they're not consciously aware of it, they are unconsciously aware of the feeling they have that if they do not get hold of their supply, they will die. The same way that, vampire is the perfect symbol of a narcissist, because no matter how much blood a vampire drinks, it's never enough. And without it, they die. They begin to suffocate, but they can never completely lose their existence. They never really go away, so they just persist with this intense hunger that is worse than death. This is what it's like to be a narcissist. So, the adult narcissist must have been deprived of emotional validation almost to the point of death. I've talked about it before. I'm going to keep repeating it. It's very important that you understand this. Infants, the fastest way to kill an infant is not with starving them or freezing them to death. The fastest way to kill an infant is to deprive the infant of interaction, of love. If an infant is not picked up and held, if an infant is not picked up and comforted, if an infant is not spoken to, is not consciously interacted with, the infant will die. It will die before it starves to death or freezes to death. This has been proven throughout history. I've told you the story of in the Middle Ages, the English king who wanted to find out what the original human language was, because at that time the church was saying that it was Hebrew, and if somebody was born and nobody taught them how to speak, that they would at some point start to speak Hebrew, because that was the original language of God. So this king wanted to find that out, so he put a bunch of orphaned infants, newborns, on an island with a bunch of nuns, and instructed the nuns on pains of death that the only thing that they were allowed to do was to feed the child, to wipe its butt and keep it warm, but the nuns were forbidden to ever utter a word, or to pick them up, or to touch them, or to interact with them in any way whatsoever. And every single one of those infants died, and they died very quickly. So what does that mean in terms of narcissists? A narcissist is somebody, and again, we're not talking about somebody who's full of themselves and has a big ego. People throw out the word narcissist, not understanding that from a psychological perspective, it has a much deeper meaning. Somebody who has the mental illness, the personality disorder of NPD, or the variations thereof. It means that person was abandoned, discarded, ignored, if not outrightly abused, to such a degree that the infant almost died. It means that they got just enough interaction, even if it's negative interaction. They got just enough interaction that prevented them from dying. They were this close. So the narcissist feels like they are about to die all the time. And it is so horrific that in order to survive this hell, they live in their own fantasy land. So the adult narcissist must have been deprived of emotional validation almost to the point of death. The narcissist has an insatiable survival level hunger for love, validation, emotions. Now, we're looking at this, which is we're looking at this, which is, of course, Silence of the Lambs. Brilliant performance by Anthony Hopkins, but it is a fictional character. And this fictional character, the reason why this is such a popular character and why everybody loves watching it, especially victims of narcissistic abuse, they deify this guy. Not only because they're attracted to narcissists, but they secretly wish they could become him. Because this is not real. That character is designed to give you the impression that the narcissist is impenetrable, that the narcissist is so confident, that the narcissist is a brilliant genius, that they have the ability to have such confidence in everything that they do, that they never make a mistake, that nothing frightens them, that they can do absolutely anything. They have that much power. And to make it even more completely inaccurate, the narcissist in this movie and these movies and television shows and books, he only goes after the people who deserve it. So he goes after people who don't have respect for others. So he gets infuriated when somebody disrespects the lead character, I forget her name. Which is not what happens. The narcissist doesn't go around thinking to themselves, I'm going to defend the helpless, and I'm going to use my narcissistic sociopathy in order to go out and get revenge for all of those humans who have empathy who can't do that. The television show Dexter, same thing. That is fantasy, and it is the fantasy of the codependent. The codependent wishes that they had their experience. This is their delusion. This is their infant delusion on the narcissist abuser, that they are above it all and they can accomplish anything. They wish they could have that, but it's not reality. The truth is that the narcissist is a severely wounded infant that is on the verge of death at any given time from lack of love, to such a degree that they create a false reality, and in that false reality they create a godlike figure, which is really their transference and projection of the parent. And they then become that, and they present themselves as being this, and of course they're not. They are a desperately emaciated infant that is so deeply damaged that they're on the verge of death from lack of love. So I know that you've been damaged deeply by narcissists, and you understandably want to see them from the perspective of the evil that they have done to you. So you need to see them as being evil. And you need to see them as choosing to do this. I run into this all the time, especially with borderlines. Borderlines, because I talk a lot about the narcissism and the sociopathy and the secondary psychopathy that the borderline has, and that from the perspective of the victim of borderline abuse, there's literally no difference. Whether you've been abused by a borderline or by a narcissist, NPD, it doesn't matter. The end result is it feels exactly the same. There is no difference. It's not like the abuse of the borderline is less and they're more loving and the narcissist is evil and more damaging. In the end, it is exactly the same. It feels exactly the same. I know, because I've been on the end of both of them, but I'm not alone. Everybody else that you talk to that have been abused by borderline will say it feels exactly like being abused by an NPD. But borderlines want to say, no, we're not that bad. We're not that bad because we have empathy. Now, for them, a borderline, the word empathy means that they have a squishy feeling. And they can look at a puppy or a kitten or even you when you're in pain, if they're not triggered, and they can weep and have feelings of empathy for you. But that empathy can be turned off in a split second, and it can be completely lost, which is why I say it's not empathy. Empathy is something that doesn't go away, even when you're angry or disappointed or you've been hurt. You have the ability to know that something you do could be harmful or feel harmful to another person. That is true empathy. So the victims of narcissistic abuse, they need to feel as though their abusers consciously know what they're doing and that they have the ability to be kind to you and loving to you, but they're just choosing not to because they get off on watching you be in pain. They might get off on watching you be in pain, but the idea that they have the ability, that they can choose to turn it on and turn it off, again, this is the codependence projection onto them. Because, I tell this to people all the time, especially people who, are wanting to believe that their borderline will be able to love them. That if they can just do something or get them in therapy or say the right thing, or if they can just figure this part out or do this, then they can get the borderline to finally feel loved. And then once they feel loved and safe, which is what they've told you they need to feel loved and safe. As long as you can provide that for them, then they'll finally relax and they'll turn around and love you. So what ends up happening when the borderline doesn't do that, when they discard you and they throw you away because they have used your supply until there's none left. Your response to that is to want to believe that they are consciously evil and that they chose to do it. Now you do that from a place of feeling superior and justified and all of that, but the truth is that you need to believe that they're choosing to do it, not because you like the idea of them being evil. You need to believe that because if you accept that they don't have any conscious control over the fact that they cannot avoid ultimately discarding you and throwing you away, if you can't tolerate that fact, then you have to hold on to the hope that someday they will go, you know what, you're right. I can do differently. I'm now going to love you. There's somebody I know that's been interacting with a borderline for decades. I won't get into details, but I've watched this for decades now. And this person is very well versed in fact, this person's a psychotherapist. But when it comes to borderlines, because this person has a borderline in their life and has gone through all kinds of drama to keep that borderline in their life, this person will say that BPD is a series of behaviors. He won't say it's a mental illness, because if he says it's a mental illness and accepts that this person does not have the ability to avoid being abusive and discarding him, in order to hold on to the hope that someday she will turn around and love him, he says borderline personality disorder is just a list of behaviors. But the truth of the matter is, if you understand what narcissism is, then, and you understand that these people are absolutely thoroughly incapable, except in some cases, especially with borderlines who do some action-oriented therapy like DBT therapy and workbooks and things like that. Some of them can hold on to relationships even though their internal dynamics never really change. They can control their behavior. Other than that, it's impossible. And I'm going to explain to you why that is in this video. So the narcissist has an insatiable survival level hunger for love, validation, and emotions. The narcissist victim must have a similar infantile wound from lack of validation. So this is something, again, we talk about all the time on this channel, but it's very important that you understand it. And I'm talking about borderlines as well. The only caveat, again, is the borderline who spent at least 8 to 10 years in a therapy that works, like DBT, and they absolutely are committed to doing it, not because somebody told them to do it, and they're doing it for themselves, and they really want to be self-aware. Outside of that, the borderline has as much ability to control their behavior as the NPD. It's identical, and if you don't accept that, you are asking to be destroyed, completely, totally destroyed, hollowed out from the inside, because you will be their supply. I want you to understand what supply is. It's probably not what you think. So the narc victim must have a similar infantile wound from lack of validation. So you didn't get it as bad as the borderline or the narcissist, but you were also denied the birthright of all human beings, which is to be given the experience that your value, your lovability, is based solely on the fact that you're alive and you experience reality and you have feelings. That is the only thing that gives you value. In fact, there is literally nothing you can do which will make you more lovable, more valuable to the universe, to the spirit, to God, to the angels, to energy itself, to the earth, to the quantum field. There is literally nothing you can do that will make you more lovable or more valuable to actual consciousness, to actual reality. So it means we're living in an insane upside down matrix world, because virtually every human on some level has a transactional relationship with you. You only have value to them to the degree that you meet their needs and their desires, their supply. Now, the level of abuse is far less. You can have friendships, marriages, but it's all transactional. And even that devalues you, because when you truly connect with the universe, with the multiverse, with the spirit, with God, whatever words you want to use, you never need to have anything from anybody else. This is one of the things that we work on here at reversenarcabuse.com. I've got some intro videos there. You can go there. And what we're doing on my other channel is to learn how to completely shift your internal dynamics so that you will never be in any way vulnerable to the narcissistic devaluation programming, and that is quantum shifting. And you can get that course at thunderwizard.com. Quantum shifting #1 is available for free on the channel and at the thunderwizard.com website. But without that, there's the only way to get through this world is to operate on some level of being devalued, having some level of a transactional relationship with yourself as well as with the world around you. So you have a similar infantile wound from a lack of validation. Otherwise, the narcissist would not have any way to influence you. So if you have the idea that narcissists have the ability to victimize anyone they choose, you are wrong. Again, just like a wolf. Wolves in the wild, they serve a very important function for nature because they help the herds of animals that they hunt to be strong. And the way they do that is they get rid of all of the sick and the weak and the elderly. They get rid of those. They don't get rid of the big buck with the huge, they get rid of the weak. And they look for the weak. They follow the herds waiting for somebody to trail behind. Young, weak, sick, old, and those are the ones they go after. And again, this is what allows the genetics of the whatever herd that they're chasing after, the elk or the deer or whatever it is. It allows them to create stronger genetics. So it's good. But they only go after those that have vulnerabilities. The narcissist is seeking a specific vulnerability from you. And that's because they won't get any supply from you unless you have this weakness. And that weakness is your need to be validated, to be loved. I'm not judging you. We all have it. So I don't want you to, again, I would be narcissistically devaluing you if I tried to shame you out of your need to be loved. That would be like telling an infant, stop crying, stop needing to be loved. It's unfortunate that you didn't get it to the extent that you deserved when you were an infant. But something happened. Now you got maybe considerably more love and attention than the hardcore psychopath narcissist or the borderline. Borderline's really, I don't know who got less, borderlines or narcissists, but anyways, borderline's got a really bad, got dealt a really bad hand in life. But if you are, and again, this is why narcissists are so attractive to, why borderlines are so attractive to narcissists. Narcissists are attractive to borderlines because the borderline's greatest fear is actual intimacy. And the narcissist never delivers on that, which is why borderlines chase after narcissists. But borderlines also chase after nice, juicy codependents who actually deliver on the promise of intimacy. So it's not that they only go after narcissists. They tell you they only have been devalued by narcissists, but they can't tell the difference. Sometimes they chase after a narcissist who completely, totally devalues them and doesn't give them intimacy, and they can talk about how horribly this narcissist, abused them for however long. But they'll end up saying the same thing about the actual codependent who isn't a narcissist, who actually delivered on the intimacy and the love, but because they're so afraid of being consumed, they concoct a false reality of being abused by somebody that actually didn't abuse them. So we don't know what the percentage is. And those are, you borderlines listening who say, yeah, but I only do it to, no, I can guarantee you have damaged people who did not in any way seek to damage you. They wanted to give you exactly what you said you wanted. But anyway, that's for another video. So you have to have this wound within you. You have to have this need for validation. And it has to go all the way back to childhood, even to infancy, perhaps. Because if you don't have that, the wolf can't see that weakness and isn't attracted to it. But that weakness creates a supply that they need. They thrive off of that wound and interacting with that wound and manipulating it so that you will provide them with the supply that they need. All right, so the narc victim must have a similar infantile wound from lack of validation. The narc grooms their victim to re-experience the need for parental validation. Let me repeat that. This is 1, 2, 3. This is the fourth one down. The narcissist grooms their victim to re-experience the need for parental validation. So, the most difficult and challenging part of narcissistic abuse is that it never starts out that way. Unless somebody is a total masochist, the narcissist does not start off their abuse by being cruel to you. They start off their abuse by delivering on your deepest need, which is the need for love and validation. That is everybody's deepest need. As I've said, if you don't get that as an infant, it'll kill you faster than anything else. So you didn't get that. You have that need to whatever degree. The narcissist can see that because they live it. The reason why they can see it is because they're experts in it. They understand it and experience it and taste it and live it more than anybody. This is the borderline. I'm including borderlines in this because borderline BPD is a form of, is the flip side of NPD, I should say that. It's the flip side of NPD. It comes from the exact same root. So, right, so you have this need, you want to be loved, you want to be validated, And nobody can see this and understand it more deeply than the narcissist, because the narcissist lives it every single moment of their life. They live this. They're in a constant state of PTSD. This is why narcissists don't sleep. You know, if I bring up to you well-known narcissists, communal narcissists especially, if we look at their lives, you'll find out they don't sleep. They might get 4 hours a night, because that's the minimum that your body needs. If you get 4 hours, you can function. 6 hours is a little bit better. You know, as I'm hitting 61, so on the days that I don't go like surfing all day or go to the gym, sometimes if I've had a few days to rest, I'll only need about 6 hours of sleep. I might force myself to get 8 because it's better for me. But the average person only needs about 4 hours of sleep, and you'll find narcissists get between 2 and 4 hours of sleep every night. What happens is they just conk out, they collapse, and then they're in such horrific fear and pain that they're jolted out of their sleep. For those of you that have been in narcissistically abusive relationships, or you've been discarded, you will be what you call ruminating, and you go through the same thing. You'll get just enough sleep that your body can function, and then you'll be jolted out of a deep sleep with just a horrific fear. You'll wake up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat, and this fear, thinking about where is she, where is he, are they thinking about me? That's called PTSD, and it's because you are now have been regressed to that infantile stage of, if mommy doesn't love me, I'm going to die. And you live it. So take that and magnify it 100 times, and you have the narcissist's continuous experience of reality. So the narc grooms their victim to re-experience the need for parental validation. In the beginning, they first bring it out in you, and then they answer that need. They respond to that. That is why you feel, oh my God, this is my twin flame. This is what twin flame is all about. The reason, the word twin flame is relatively new. The word only used to be soulmate, where you've known somebody forever, they're your soulmate. Well, nowadays, a soulmate is that's just a soulmate. This is a twin flame. It's not just another soul. It is the other half of you that's been ripped in half. And, but the dynamic isn't that the two halves come together and it's beautiful. It's that somehow the two halves come together and they're the worst thing for each other, and they bring out the worst in each other. Well, this is just abuse. This is just codependent dysfunction. And so, but people talk about twin flames as somehow being more real and more intense and more deep than just a soulmate or a good friend. But in reality, all of that experience you have of, I've known you for eternity, you're the only one for me, you're my other half, you're my twin flame, that is because the narcissist has found the deepest need within you that was never met, which is the infantile need to be seen, loved, nurtured, and valued simply for existing, because that's what a good mother does. And when the narcissist gives that to you, it is the most powerful drug you've ever experienced. And so you become bonded. So in the beginning, the narcissist doesn't seek to abuse you. The narcissist seeks to give you your deepest desires, which is what bonds you to them. And it's not just that you fall in love with them, you like them. You are bonded to them to the same degree that an infant is bonded to the parents. And remember what happens. If the infant doesn't get parental love, the infant dies. So you are connected to the narcissist now at the level of the deepest survival possible. This is why the narcissist seemingly has all this power over you. That's why when you look back on him, you see the narcissist as being this godlike Hannibal Lecter who is completely able to manipulate everybody in the world and has no weak points and is able to understand everything and has pure power and is this complete, total genius that nobody can ever get one over on. That is your transference, because what the narcissist did is they met you at that level where when you were an infant, that would have been true. When an infant looks up at a parent, even if the parent is a complete moron, a complete, just an idiot, from the perspective of that infant, this is the most powerful being that can ever exist. Nothing can be more powerful than this being. So this is why you look back on the narcissist and turn them into something that they're not. This is why you believe that you have been completely victimized. This is why you don't see that you had a part in this, that you sought them out and that you responded to them. Because the truth of the matter is, the average person who has some identity or has some validation within them, the narcissist comes along and that person gets creeped out. They just go, I don't trust that person. The person's way too nice. They're trying way too hard. They're obviously trying to sell me something. When a salesman is trying to sell you something, it's creepy. They're trying to manipulate your needs or your desires. So the narcissist is brilliant at this only because you have that need and they share it and they know exactly what to say and how to say it, and they look for exactly how to manipulate that need so that you will get bonded to them. So the narc grooms their victim to re-experience the need for parental validation. 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 5, love bombing mimics the infantile validation you never received. Right? That makes sense. Pretty much I've said that. It's love bombing because it works because it mimics what you never got, which is why it feels like for the very first time. Remember that Madonna song, For the First Time? For the very first time. It's like the first time. Well, the first time is because you never had it before. And it never gets better. Like the first time you have good sex, it's like, you keep trying to have that same experience. The first time you do cocaine or whatever other drug, for the first time it's the most amazing thing, and after that you never really get back to that. Well, that's why the narcissist has the ability to make you feel so amazing, because they're able to get to something that was never ever touched. But it doesn't mean that what they're doing is brilliant or that it's amazing or that it's true love or any of that. It means you've regressed to the point of an infant and you're responding from the most powerful, the deepest instinct within you, which is to survive because of being loved. So the next one, the narcissist then feeds off of your infantile love response and bonds to your infant self to them. Right? We already talked about that. The narcissist then stimulates your inborn parental response to their unmet validation needs. Now, so you've noticed in the beginning, the narcissist presents themselves as being completely okay with themselves. They've got their life together. They're successful. And out of all of the spare power and love within them, they're going to dote on you and love you, and you're going to feel like, oh my God, this person is so loving. They have so much love to give. They're so amazing. So once they've done that, and once they've gotten that bonding, that they've super glued you to them, now they know that you're going to stay, because they know that your experiences, you don't think you're ever going to find this anywhere else. You need them the same way that your dog needs you or an infant needs a parent. It's, there's just nothing stronger, and it's unshakable. There's no way an infant is going to wake up one day and say, you know what, I don't need this mother. I'm out of here. And they pack their little bag and leave. It's not going to happen. They can't survive without you. They can't physically survive, and they can't emotionally survive. So physically you're capable of surviving, but emotionally you're not, because you're now regressed to that infant stage and you've been bonded to the narcissist, and the narcissist now knows that. Now the narcissist needs to groom you to become their parent, because what is their need? The only reason they're seeking you out is because they have that same unmet infantile need that you have, but they have it much worse than you do. And they also know that you are able to give them what they want. They're able to figure out whether or not you're a good codependent, which means they can tell whether or not you want to take care of other people's needs. And so when they see that in you, once they've love bombed you, gotten you all, infantilely regressed and connected and bonded to them, now they're going to get what they really want from you. Is they want you to love them like their parent didn't do for them. So the narcissist idealizes you in the beginning. We know this about borderlines. Borderlines idealize you in the beginning. I'm not going to get into the difference. There's plenty of videos out there. Sam Vaknin is very good at delineating that. And if I need to at some point, if it works for me, I'll go into that, because it's a very interesting dynamic. But we know that the borderline infantilely idealizes you. The narcissist idealizes you as well in a different way. But their idealization is because they have, in their mind, they have created a false reality, and they have this idea of who they want. They have an idealized version of their perfect partner that's going to fix them, that's going to give them all of their needs, that's going to make them feel loved. And they look around for people that could fit in that fantasy inside of them. It's a made-up fantasy inside their head. And so they're looking for stick figures that they can take and then reform to then plop inside of their fantasy inside of them, their narcissistic internal world. And so they idealize you. So they have an idea of who you are in their mind and how perfect you are. You don't have any needs, right? Because from the perspective of the infant, the parent doesn't have any needs. They're all powerful. Of course, they do have needs, but the infant can't see that. And so the narcissist can't see that you have needs, and in their fantasy, you don't have any needs. You're only there to serve them and to meet their regressed infantile needs. So they're grooming you. They're doing all kinds of things to mold you so that they can then pull you inside of their fantasy, in the hopes that then you will be that perfect, idealized, unrealistic version of a parent. It never works. It might work at first, might work, you might be able to pull that off for a little while because you want them to love you. You're still wanting them to love you. So you understand it's two infants playing pretend. Now you be the parent. Okay, now you be the parent. Okay, you play the daddy now. They're playing pretend. They don't have any idea. Neither of them have any idea what the hell a real relationship is. And both of them are seeking to parentify the other, at least in the beginning. So the narcissist idealizes you to be the perfect parent, and of course you fail. Then comes the abuse. So the narc then feeds off of your infantile love response bonds. The narc then stimulates your inborn parental response to their unmet validation needs. Now, every single person has this inborn instinct to parentify infants. Why do you think that puppies are so cute? Because they're not so helpless like an infant, right? That just sits there and can't do anything. They can run and they can play and they can bark and they can do other things, but they are absolutely, completely, totally dependent upon you for love, for validation, And we think it's adorable. Everybody loves puppies. Everybody loves kittens. Everybody loves cute little babies. Grandparents like that because once the diaper needs to be changed, they just hand them off to the parents. But grandma and grandpa are really great when the kid is just being cute and fun. We love that. We love their big eyes and so there's an instinct within you when your narcissist shows the inability to take care of themselves. It creates a parental response in you that's inborn, and it is extremely powerful. And the reason for that is, not only you're projecting onto them your own needs, et cetera, but also it's just the species need to stay alive. The species wouldn't stay alive if people didn't have an inborn desire to take care of the helpless infants, the children. So you conflate that with love. You think it's love. You think it's caring. You think it's tenderness, but it's not. The narcissist has pushed the parental instinct within you, and you can't help but need to take care of them. And then they can manipulate that and make you feel guilty, and then you have shame if they can't help it, I have to help them. Right? So all of this is going on. Your needs have your needs met. You're projecting onto them. You are seeking validation by meeting their needs because that's, again, you've been narcissistically programmed to devalue yourself, that your value comes from what you do for others. This is, typical codependent behavior. Your value comes from being able to meet other people's needs and make them happy. So they manipulate all of that. All of this stuff is going on at the same time. That's why it's so incredibly, addictive and hard. Once you're in it, it's very hard. You can't think straight. These are a lot of the reasons why. The narc stimulates your inborn parental response to their unmet validation needs. The narc ping-pongs between infantilizing and parentifying you. So again, in order to keep this going and to keep control over you, when it suits them, the narcissist will infantilize you. They will control you. They will make you believe that you need them. They will make stuff up all the time and solve problems. They'll steal money from somebody else so that they can, this is a Ponzi scheme. This is how Ponzi schemes work. This is why Ponzi schemes are narcissistically devaluing, because they steal from one person. Why? To give money to somebody else and make them feel good so that you'll be bonded and want to stay in the scheme. Watch those movies about, the Ponzi schemes that, I forget, anyway, there was one that just recently came out, Bernie Madoff, the Madoff story or something like that. Watch that. What you'll find out is that what he's doing, he's a narcissist. Yes, he's doing it to make money. All of those things are true. But when you see that once the whole thing begins going, he just can't stop it. And he has a need to give money to people to make them feel good and make him look good to them. It's all about his narcissism. It has more to do with his narcissism than it does with him ripping you off. It's just part of Ponzi schemes are narcissistic devaluation. This is why pyramid schemes and multi-level marketing has such a bad reputation, because that's what. Listen, back in the 90s, I was in numerous multi-level marketing companies, the Ponzi schemes. All of them. Our entire society is a Ponzi scheme. Anyway, I'm getting off track, as I am wont to do. Because the narc never received love, actual intimacy feels deadly to the narcissist. Now, this is important because you believe at some point, if you just are perfect enough, you'll finally get loved. And of course, it never happens. The narcissist has to ping pong. This is if you want to know what the abuse is about, this is what the abuse is really about. The abuse even though they do get off on harming you if they're a psychopath. Not all narcissists are psychopaths, by the way. Some narcissists are like communal narcissists, not like full-on psycho, cult leaders. But there are communal narcissists who are filled with empathy, who are filled with compassion, who will masochistically, deny themselves in order to help others. But ultimately, they are feeding off of people. You may not see it for decades, but just because somebody is a narcissist does not mean that they're a psychopath or that they're a sociopath. The whole idea that all narcissists are psychopaths or sociopaths is completely wrong. I used to think so up until very recently, and without getting into details, I now know that there are narcissists who will feed off of you and slowly suck the life out of you, all the while they themselves consciously are filled with feelings of love, filled with feelings of self-denial, of giving, of sacrificing, compassion. It's very, very hard to tell unless you realize I'm getting fed off of here. And it may take a very long time. But in other words, we can talk about supply in that way, but we'll get to that. But supply is about, at some point you realize that you are getting less and less out of the relationship, and more is being taken from you. And you're losing your energy, you're losing your life force is being pulled out of you. You are being fed on. But not everybody who's evil, who's overtly evil, is feeding off of you. There are people that are honestly believe that they are saviors who are feeding off of you narcissistically. Okay, so because the narc never received actual intimacy feels deadly to the narc. So this is the thing that is most damaging to the average codependent. The borderline seeks, actually, the reason why, as I said, the reason why borderlines love narcissists is because narcissists never deliver on the promise of intimacy. So this keeps the borderline in that hamster wheel, which is where they want to be. They don't want intimacy because if you give them intimacy, their fear of being consumed combined with their fear of rejection, because the fear of rejection only really gets big when you're actually going to get what you want. As long as it's just outside of your reach, you're technically being rejected, but there's hope, so they chase after that. But once you give them the intimacy they crave and that they say that they want, they will then turn psychopath on you, split on you, and discard you in horrible ways. So the narcissist is the same. They don't have they have a different strategy for handling it ultimately, which we'll talk about. But the narcissist is incapable of having real intimacy, and it's for the same reason. Their belief is that it will kill them. They don't consciously think this, by the way. They don't think, if I get love, it's going to kill me. They just have a feeling. And of course, they have all the crazy, same kinds of responses. They accuse you of all kinds of things you've never done and you've never said. But they have more sophisticated ways of keeping you away from them and keeping you at arm's distance. A lot with abuse. They abuse you partly for this reason, to keep you from getting too close. Because if you actually are able to love them, they would then regress to such a point where they would become that infant, and it could kill them. Your love might actually kill them. So this is important to know, because if you're a victim of narcissistic abuse, part of the problem is that you believe at some point, if you give the narcissist what they want, if you meet their demands, if you finally do it perfectly, that their defenses will drop, they will finally love you, and it'll all be okay, and they'll love you forever. And it never happens. If you don't understand that they have a fail-safe against real intimacy, that real intimacy will kill them, then you can get rid of the hope that someday they'll love you. Someday they'll accept you. It'll all be over soon. That never happens. Didn't happen with your parents. It's not going to happen with them. It's because it's impossible. And this is the biggest denial. And codependents hold on to this hope, this delusion that someday, or usually just around the corner. One of the most common experiences of this is that there will be a big blow up, there'll be abusive, whatever, some kind of drama, and then all of a sudden there will be this come to Jesus moment where people come together and they communicate, and your experience is, oh my God, they're finally getting it. They'll even be able to elucidate their feelings and the reasons behind it and why they were doing this and why they were afraid. You're so right. I was wrong. I did it for this reason. I see now what I was really afraid of. I'm now ready for the real thing, and you'll buy it. And there's no reason why you wouldn't, because borderlines especially are brilliant at this. Borderlines, I think, are even better than narcissists, but they will say it with the same self-awareness and depth of understanding that an honest person would say when they are about to shift their behavior, away from something destructive. And it'll be so convincing because, it'll be so accurate that you'll buy it. And you'll go, finally, they finally heard me. Now we can finally move on. Now it'll finally be okay. And you'll relax your guard. You will feel, finally, they will love bomb you, make you feel like it's all going to be okay. And that's when the real abuse will come. Then you're going to get abused like hell. Because again, if you continue going down that path, the end result is going to be real intimacy. And they can't tolerate it. They can't tolerate it because it feels like death. So when somebody has a gun to your head and you feel like you're about to die, you react violently to protect yourself. So when your experience of being unjustly abused is correct, because when you need them the most, when you feel connected to them the most, when you are now the most vulnerable and you are experiencing true intimacy, for them, their life then becomes threatened and they have to attack the very source that is coming to give them what they think they want, which is the sad part of it. It is truly what they want. But because they were so damaged and warped as an infant, that defense mechanism, is on all the time. It'll never stop. So they'll never accept true intimacy. They'll never accept your love. They'll never see you for who you are. They'll never see your true needs. They'll never have true empathy and understanding. And the borderline will never have true empathy and understanding, even if they have squishy feelings. They'll turn it off the moment that they're afraid they're going to be absorbed and consumed by your intimacy. You've got to understand this if you want to survive this. This is the denial. This has been what I have been trying to accomplish with this channel. All of the talking about borderlines and narcissists is to get you to the point to realize that you will never get what you want from them. It's impossible. There's nothing you can do. And everything you do, even if it's perfect, is the very thing that will push them away. And until you can understand that it's hopeless, you will always be a victim. This is why I keep telling you guys to do the one thing. So, if you want to recover from this, to get to the point where you're not in that position to be put into that crazy state of mind, I have reversenarcabuse.com. That is designed to help educate you to get prepared to do what you need to do to resolve that. The quantum shifting course also comes at it from a different angle, but it's designed to give you the same thing. The one thing we talk about in this channel, that will get you up to a place where you can at least then have sanity and be able to function. But personally for me, I've needed to go even further than that, which is what I'm doing with this channel and with the Thunder Wizard channel. That's the goal for all of it, just to let you know. All right. So the promise and hope of normal love and commitment just around the corner traps the victim. That's the third from the bottom. Let's see, I think I got ahead of myself. So because the narc never received love, actual intimacy feels deadly to the narc. Once parental bonding has been established between narc and victim, devaluation begins. Post-love bombing abuse creates trauma bond intermittent reinforcement to keep supply. So the supply is actually coming from your intense, very vulnerable emotions. That is really what the supply is about. It's going to be different. You know, everybody's got different tastes. Some narcissists want to be worshipped. It's still emotions. Some narcissists want to be abused. You know, some narcissists are, like to be hurt, like to be abused. Some, you know, it's all the same. Like I said, communal narcissists love to be, have their life force taken away from them as they give themselves away to others. But they get off of your emotions that result from that. So it just, everybody's got different flavors, but it all comes down to that. And you know at the end that you're being narcissistically abused because at some point you realize that the emotions, the vulnerable emotions that keep either erupting or being torn out of you or pulled out of you, at some point you realize that it's damaging your life force. It's sucking away your life force. Whereas real relationships do something that can feel similar, which is it brings out feelings of love, feelings of intimacy, but it also creates feelings of safety, feelings of satiation, where you're so satiated, your needs are so met, and you're so filled with love that you now have more to give. And you can give yourself everything and give everything to other people. And other people don't need anything from you. Everybody's giving to everybody because everybody's getting and feeling good. But at some point, the narcissistic supply is your emotional energy that they're feeding off of. Whether it's negative attention, some narcissists love being hated. They don't care as long as it's pulling energy out of you. This is why, you ruminate. You know, it's really interesting. I can, just to give you an example, I remember a girlfriend I had when I was way back in my 20s. Now, she was chronically codependent. So that's on the scale of narcissism, by the way. She was chronically codependent. And I couldn't tolerate it anymore. She was, I could never make her feel loved. I could never make her feel safe. She was constantly complaining, constantly on my case, and it was just draining me. And I ended the relationship. I was actually thinking about ending the relationship, and one of our friends said, here's what we're going to do. You're going to take 2 weeks off, and at the end of 2 weeks, if you still feel like ending it, you can end it, but you're going to take 2 weeks off and think about it. So after about a week, my energy was coming back and I felt so good. I went, yeah, I'm going to end this. I was going to wait a week because I committed to waiting a week, but I already knew a week in I was going to end it. As soon as I made that decision, because my energy had come back into my body and I felt comfortable and happy, as soon as I made that decision, my phone started blowing up. And that was, back before cell phones and people had to leave, recorded voicemail messages. So, I'm pressing the button on a beep and I can tell you're going to leave me. I feel it. You've left me. You're gone. She was feeding off of me. Even when I wasn't physically there, she was feeding off of me. The moment that I made the mental decision that it was over and I was comfortable and I didn't have the codependent need to meet her craziness, she felt it. She energetically felt the disconnection and went crazy, psychically was 100% right. She knew the exact moment that it happened and was on the phone, within seconds. So this is what's happening when you are ruminating. When you can't stop thinking about it, you haven't seen them in weeks, you haven't seen them in months, you haven't seen them in years, but you can't stop thinking about them. You don't have any contact with them. They're still feeding off of you. You know, my borderline did the same thing. Now, the difference is the borderline discarded me, right? But they hoover you. You want to know why they hoover you? They hoover you when you start to get your energy back. So she discarded me, and it was horrific, and I was in a lot of pain, and I was ruminating about her. And again, I don't know how long it took, but it took a little while, and then I started coming out of it, and I started going, you know what, that just wasn't a great relationship. I think I'm going to be okay. I think I'm going to be, I start to enjoy my life, and next thing I know, you know, then comes the phone call. I was thinking about you today, and, you know, I changed my mind, and, you know, I really made a mistake, and you really did love me. And she was right back in. She hoovered me right back in. So understand that, you know, those of you who have been out of your relationship for years or decades and you think that's enough, if you're still thinking about them, if you're still ruminating about them, you know, here's what I hear most of the time. I've been away from it for a long time and I've done a lot of healing. There's still some pain, but I've healed a lot. Or I'm mostly healed, but I still think about her. I'm mostly healed, but, you know, I just wish that it had worked out. I still wonder about him sometimes. He's still feeding off of you. She's still feeding off of you. It's still pulling the life force out. You're still sad. You're still messed up. You make yourself feel better by saying, I've come a long way. I'm mostly healed. No, there's no such thing as mostly healed. You are either 100% healed or you are still a source of supply to them. This is why I keep telling people, you know, there are things you have to do. And if you don't do them, you will never recover. It doesn't matter how long you've been out. Once you've been in these relationships and this, you know, this tapeworm has gotten inside of you and it starts feeding off of you, it doesn't go away by itself. You've got to take direct action. That's what all of the things are that I make available to you. I've told you what to do, what the one thing is. If you don't know what it is, people say, what is the one thing? You know, if you spend 5 minutes literally searching on the videos of my channel, learn how to search within somebody's channel and type in the one thing on my channel, and there will be a video that'll pop up and tell you exactly what the one thing is. I've got a book out that tells you exactly what the one thing is. Many of, you know, the majority of the videos tell you what the one thing is. But again, we live in this society where people are so dependent and they're so lazy and they're so victimized that people will say, you didn't say what the one thing is. Literally put less amount of time than it took for you to write what is the one thing and search on the channel for it and you'll find it. There's a reason why I don't always give it away, and that's part of it, is because learn how to give to yourself. Don't be so dependent on others to do things for you. Anyway, I could go off on that, but I won't. But again, the tools that I've made available, I've already told you about, are here to give you the ability. I'm telling you, I'm sitting here as somebody who is self-empowered. I'm here as somebody who is, I've individuated. I'm continuing to grow in my individuation. I am not needing anybody else to co-sign my existence. I'm not avoiding people. You know, the other people will say, I don't need anybody. I haven't needed anybody for years. I don't need, but that's a lie. It's just they're so angry and they're so afraid that they don't want to make themselves available. I'm not doing that. I'm totally open to anything. But I'm not so desperate I'll jump into whatever friendship or relationship is thrown at me. And if I don't find, you know, whether it's a, you know, certain amount of friends or whether it's a romantic relationship, if it doesn't make itself available, I am totally okay just being self-empowered. Having a connection, a direct connection to the life force of the universe. This is called being individuated. I've learned how to do that. So if you want that, I make all of these tools available to you. You know, all of the links here are there. Just watching my videos isn't going to do it. It's going to take action on your part. and knowing specific things that you can do. All right, let's see what else. What else have I got to say here? All right, so the promise and hope of normal love and commitment just around the corner traps the victim. We already talked about that. This is one of the this is your denial, this is your fantasy, this is your hope, and they victimize that. They manipulate that. Your hope that right around the corner it's going to be okay. That feeling of, especially when they've indicated to you that they understand. Again, borderlines are brilliant at this, but narcissists do it as well. They indicate to you that they understand your needs, they understand what you've said, they tell you what they see about themselves and what's wrong, and just now that they know that, everything's going to be better. They give you some love, they give you some supply back to you, and you feel it's going to be okay. And then, of course, the abuse comes and they gaslight, they make it your fault, they victim blame, and then it's you feel ashamed, you did it, and if only you had just done it better. You know, I almost had it, I almost had him, she was almost there, she almost loved me, and then whoops, I said that one thing, or whoops, I looked at my watch, or whoops, I did that one thing and I didn't realize, and if I had just known, or I should have known, you know, and then I'll get it together and it's just going to right around the corner. That feeling is what keeps you there. So you gotta walk away from that lunacy, and until you understand that these people are completely incapable. It doesn't matter. There's literally nothing that you can do that will make them love you. It won't ever happen. The ultimate goal of the narcissist is to keep you hostage, feeding off of your emotional wounds. So the narcissistic supply is just this. It's your emotional wounds, emotional intensity. That's why there's always drama. Even if the narcissist themselves, you know, is dead-eyed, you're filled with trauma. You're filled with drama, and they feed off of that. So it's, you know, and with the borderline, it's the other way. The borderline is histrionic and full of drama and trauma, but they're still feeding off of you. They just have different ways of doing it. But your emotional intensity, your emotional, even being, you know, so sullen and just, you know, trying to keep it together and just so disillusioned. You know, that's an intense feeling, because underneath all that, whether it's been pushed down into your unconscious and is exploding inside of you, or whether it's out there because you're dramatic and intense about it, it doesn't matter. There's an intensity that they're feeding off of. This is the supply. This, by the way, is the same with demons. You know, those of you who believe in such things. This is why people keep saying that narcissists and borderlines are demon possessed. Without getting into that, the truth is that demons, if you choose to believe them, that's all that they are. These are entities that feed off of your negative emotions. They frighten you so they can feed off of that. And if the narcissist is a psychopath, they will feed off of your fear. They get off on that. If they're a communal narcissist, they'll feed off of your feeling of devotion towards the Almighty or whatever it is. But whatever it is, they're feeding off of your emotions, whether conscious or unconscious, positive or negative. They're feeding off of it. All right, so the ultimate goal of the narc is to keep you hostage, feeding off of your emotional wounds. Borderlines discard you once they have fed off of your supply. NPDs keep your zombified corpse as a trophy. So this is the last thing, which is, you know, it's taken me a long time to see some of the differences, but I've experienced both of this, or at least observed it. The borderline, what they do is they will keep things going, keep you around, so that they can feed off of you. The narcissist and the borderline have the same general goal, which is to feed off of you until there's nothing left. And narcissists will discard as well, so don't get me wrong, but you know, here's one way you can know a narcissist from a borderline. A borderline will feed off of you and feed off of you and feed off of you until you are completely, totally hollowed out from the inside and you are dead. When you feel exactly like the borderline, when you get to the point where you mentally, emotionally, you're right where they are and you have nothing left to give, you're just this giant need. At that point, they see themselves and they're narcissistically mortified, which means, anyway, they see themselves and they can't do, either project onto you in the ways that they do, or they can't idealize you, they can't manipulate you, there's nothing left to squeeze out of you. They look into your eyes, they see the hopelessness, the helplessness, they see an infant that is on the verge of death from lack of attention, and it mortifies them, and they become absolutely disgusted with you because that's how they feel about themselves. So the goal of the borderline is to turn you into them. Once you have been turned into them, then they discard you. And depending on how much energy they pulled out of you, the more they pull out of you, the worse the discard is. They will discard you at the worst possible time, when you need them the most. They might even love bomb you just before they discard you. Again, to get some, this may not be conscious, this may not be their conscious strategy, but it is definitely their unconscious strategy, for sure. They get you to that point, and then they'll love bomb you for half a second so that you start to feel like it's going to be okay. They'll take care of you, and it'll put you just in a place where you're, again, ready to trust them, but they'll know that they're going to have to put out and love you and give you intimacy and take care of you, and then they discard you. And when they discard you, sometimes it's the worst. It's not just throwing you away and forgetting about you. They have to completely destroy you. They have to completely, totally, utterly destroy you. Again, it's the last act that they feel happened to them. They're doing to you what they felt was done. And again, it's suicide by proxy. So they might destroy your business, they might slash your tires, they might steal all of your money, they might, skip town with your cousin and steal your business and steal your car. It could actually be enough to absolutely kill you and destroy you and make you delete yourself. That is what the borderline will do. They will delete you. They will discard you in the worst way, and then you'll never ever see them again. Some narcissists, however, they do the same thing. They take you right to that point. They completely hollow you out. They feed off of you and feed off of you and feed off of you until there's nothing left to feed on. Then, instead of discarding you, they hold you hostage. They will keep you around. They won't let you leave. You won't have the ability to leave. They won't let you leave. They won't let you have another life. They won't let you have any other connections or relationships. They won't let you bring yourself back or nourish yourself until there's something left in you. They won't allow that to ever happen to you. And again, what you're seeing is how they are. So the unconscious strategy is the same for both the borderline and the narcissist. The borderline's biggest fear is what? To be abandoned and rejected. So what do? Ultimately, they completely discard and reject you. The ultimate fear of the narcissist is not to be allowed to die, to be completely deprived of their internal energy to such a point where they're hollow shells, where they are walking corpses, where they are zombies. But that's how they're like that all the time. That's their continuous experience of themselves. So they need you around. They need you around so that they can see that in you. And again, their internal response is a little different from the borderline. But their biggest fear, the biggest fear of the borderline is to be rejected and abandoned. The biggest fear of the narcissist is to live in that zombie vampire state and not have the ability to feed, to just be continuously dying and empty. And so they keep you around. And I've noticed this, you see this with cult leaders. If you watch all the stuff that's been about the Nexium cult and Keith Raniere, I mean, that's exactly what he did. That woman that ran the company with him, he love bombed her. She thought there was going to be something romantic. Once he got her hooked, he never touched her again romantically, but the woman couldn't leave. And then he ended up going after that woman's daughter when she was old enough, and she still couldn't leave. And so cult leaders will do this. They love bomb you and get you in. Once they've hooked you in, then you're just there and you're part of their retinue. But you can't leave. You can't leave. You can't love anybody else, and you just sit there and you just continue to starve, but you don't die. You just subsist, and you just continue to die from within, and you're just this walking corpse, this zombie, and you're forced to stay there. So borderlines discard you, and they leave trails of bodies behind them. By the way, they still think about everybody they've devalued and destroyed. They never forget anybody. They never connect with you again, but they never forget about you. They may even bring you up in their mind and relive it. They'll talk about you to my borderline talked to me about all of her exes that she devalued, destroyed, and discarded. And so they still do it, but it's an internal thing. They don't physically keep you around. They'd be scared to death if they ever saw you. The narcissist, on the other hand, needs to see that you're disempowered and that you're still there, and they can look at that. So you're a trophy to either one of them. But you get the point of all of it is that what the narcissist does is they feed off of your supply. And your supply, whatever flavor that is, worship, fear, pain, anger, love, obsession, whatever flavor it is, they feed off of your emotions. And you end up being deprived of your value. Not only your energy, but of your value. And in the end, you have no value of yourself at all. So, anyway. We could talk about this forever and ever, and as normally I end up going on too long. So these are here for you: reversenarcabuse.com, thunderwizard.com, quantum shifting. You can check those things out. I do have a Patreon site for this channel, which I haven't put any time into, but eventually I will have all of that stuff going as well. In any case, feel free to comment, of course, subscribe, and if you leave any worthwhile questions that I like, I might make videos about it. So that's it, my friend. Please remember that you have value simply because you exist. Don't just heal the narcissistic abuse trauma. Reverse the devaluation programming. And that is a much deeper thing. We'll talk about that in other videos. Thank you for your time. Please remember that you are the most beautiful, the most wonderful, the most important being that has ever existed. Please be aware that the entire universe was created simply for your pleasure, and that I and every other being in the universe benefits from you just doing what gives you joy, gives you bliss. And you created me. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't exist. So I thank you for that. I hope that you can internalize that. Until next time, my friends, please be good to yourself. I will see you all very soon.